What's up, y'all? So in the mid-1800s, scientists were still trying to get their shit together and determining what was fact and what was fiction in the medical world, specifically in Europe. Since this was the era right before the germ theory, basic hygiene was pretty much non-existent. So the idea of humans carrying diseases, not even a thought process. This was especially seen in hospitals, where it wasn't uncommon to see a doctor go from giving an autopsy to giving childbirth right after. Dirty shit like this, along with the lack of wearing safety items while giving surgery, led to death spikes across hospitals in Europe. They couldn't understand how this was happening at the time. They came up with the miasma theory, which basically says that all this is caused by smelly gusts of wind. Trips to the hospital became more like trips to the gulag, and you was lucky as hell if you made it out. This was the problem at the Vienna General Hospital, where they had two clinics for childbirth. Clinic 1 was ran by doctors and medical students, while the second clinic was ran by midwives only. And I don't know what the plan was here, but the first clinic had a mortality rate of about 30%, while the second clinic only had one of about 3%. It got so bad that the women would beg not to be sent to Clinic 1, and even give childbirth in the street rather than go. And it worked. But in between the midst of all the dumbasses was one person who was actually thinking. Ignaz Semmelweis, a doctor at the hospital who couldn't understand how they was putting up Jordan numbers compared to the midwives. So he began to wonder, what are the midwives doing differently from the doctors? In which he discovered that the doctors would give full-blown autopsies and then walk right into the delivery room. Not a soap ball in this equation. So Ignaz calls a meeting with the other doctors where he explains to them how he thinks maybe dead human residue being on them while conducting childbirth leads to the deaths. He then decided to do an experiment where he told the other doctors to make sure they wash off with chlorinated lime before operating on other patients. Now, the other doctors didn't too much like the idea, but they thought, it's worth a shot than killing half our patients, so they gave it a try. The idea was a smash hit, as the mortality rate dropped all the way from 30% down to 1%. Now, you would think he would start getting respected for basically saving the medical world, but nah, they just straight up started hating on him, bro. A lot of doctors got offended by this newfound method, with even one saying that washing your hands is superstitious. All the backlash led to Dr. Ignaz having to go against the entire hospital system. But he wasn't one for the tomfoolery. If anyone tried to oppose his idea, he'd just call them a murderer. And when the press came after him too, he just sent letters calling them murderers as well. This combined with the fact that he just embarrassed the entire hospital system was not sitting right with the doctors. So instead, they just had him thrown in an asylum. Which, in the asylum, he gets beat by the guards and ends up with an infection, which he dies to at the age of 47. After Dr. Semmelweis' death, he never did get the respect he deserved until 20 years later. Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister created germ theory, and all of a sudden everybody wanted to believe, oh damn, invisible microbes are a thing. They didn't realize they was tripping on Dr. Semmelweis and finally decided to give him some respect. So now he's known as the father of infection control. So now, when you go to a hospital and you see a sign about washing your hands, you know exactly who the cause was.